Is so for anyone that's recently joined, I want to re-describe what we have going on here real quick. So at the center bench, we've just taken out a tray and we're starting to lightly heat it up. This is a piece of kiln shelf that has little sticks of colored glass called cane on top of it. And I have some examples right here on the front table. These are black. The one that we're using right now is a white cane, which is actually white on the outside and clear on the inside. I think that's mostly just to kind of stretch the use of the color out, though, and not use as much of this very expensive, amazing color called Duro. And this white color is really special. Once again, it's called Duro because it's kind of durable, I bet. I bet that's why they call it that. I'm not sure. But it's a really hard white, which means that when we use it, it's going to stay pretty much that same shape and pattern that we started with originally. It's not going to thin out or fade or become translucent at all or anything. And by the way, I just want to point out on these two front pedestals, we have some pieces of Ben Cobb's, which he is our visiting artist today. This kind of gives you an idea of how we use the cane, specifically when it comes to this piece right here. This is using cane, which are these really fine lines of colored glass within the piece. And we're just preheating everything enough so that we can start sticking all of these individual little pieces of glass together. And these little pieces that are laid out on top of the kiln shelf as well, kind of surrounding the white pieces of glass. This is also little pieces of ceramic. It's just kind of holding all of the glass in place, just making sure that they don't roll off because they are cylindrical shaped pieces of glass. And once they heat up everything enough to stick together, they will completely get rid of all of those little bars that are helping hold everything on the tray. And by the way, I just want to point out one more thing. Over on the left bench, Ben has just pulled a pipe out of this silver box right here. It was just staying warm inside of there at around 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but this pipe has a collar of clear glass on the end of it. So that means if we were to blow into the end of this pipe, the air would travel all the way through and just right out the other end of the glass. But this is really helpful because we're going to take this collar of clear and roll it over top of these individual pieces of white. And that's going to pick them up and create basically a cylinder around the end of the pipe. And that's going to help us create an entire bubble out of just that white color. So a lot of steps, a lot of information, but I'm going to continue to follow along as they go through this process. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to just let me know. And over on the right side of the hot shop, Ben is at a pipe cooler. This is just a trough of water that we set the pipe down into. It's going to cool it down very rapidly, allowing us to handle the pipe closer to the glass again. And at the center bench, each time they heat up this cane, you can see them going in with 2 metal paddles, and they're physically pushing these pieces of cane together. And this is closing in any gaps that we might have, closing up any gaps that might cause air bubbles, most importantly. But it's also just going to make our design very flush and smooth. And we have some of this cane laid out in a horizontal direction, some of the cane laid out in a vertical direction. So we're going to have cane kind of going in a basket weave pattern. It's kind of hard to describe exactly what this looks like, but we'll be able to see it closer up later on. So Ben has just brought over that collar of clear glass, and he's lightly touching it down on one end of the cane and wrapping all the way around. So once again, this is allowing them to pick up this cane on the end of the pipe, and eventually this is going to be heated up even more until they can fully wrap it around and touch it into a cylinder shape. So now I feel like we could see that design a lot better at this point, how we have some of the cane going in one direction, some going in the other direction. And this is actually going to be turned into something called a stuff cup. It's a little bit hard to describe, but it's basically this large cup of glass with a round bottom. And eventually, later on, we would take another bubble of glass, whether it's just clear or it has another color on it, and we would stuff it inside of that cup to pick it up again. That's going to give us multiple layers of colors, patterns, or maybe just have the pattern on the more surface of the piece. But we'll see that happen later on. So at this point, we're getting really close to that sort of cylinder shape, but you'll notice that we still have the very end of the cylinder open furthest away from the pipe. So eventually we are going to add a bit of clear to that very end right there, and that's going to completely close off the end of the cylinder, which is going to create one complete sealed bubble on the end of our pipe. And then from there, we would be able to either continue to gather layers of clear over top of it for mass, or we would be able to work with it in a different way, such as blowing it out into that stuff cup or color cup.